One of those things that becomes very important when businesses are facing a cash crisis, when they're facing wanting to scale quickly, or a big new huge customer has come along and they need to know how to swallow that beast, or they're planning for an exit. Like, there are long-term goals that are going to change fundamentally how we do what we do in our businesses, but we're never able to stop everything and just do that long-term thing, right? We have to keep the business running. We have to keep the money coming. Hey, I'm Pam Pryor, and this is the Cash Flow Podcast. We're going to talk about everything related to money in your business. Without further ado, let's hop right in. And welcome back to this week's Cash Flow Podcast. I'm very excited today because we are doing three things that I'm very interested in. Beer, as you know. This week it's going to be from Victory Brewing Company, so we'll talk about that. Then we're going to jump into a brand new airline for dogs called Bark Air, and it's real. I'm pretty excited about that. And then, staying on the theme of airplanes, we're going to talk about something that entrepreneurs need to do a lot, which is fix the plane while we're flying it in our businesses. Because we never, ever are finished improving things, and we're always kind of pushing new frontiers. So I look forward to talking to you here soon. Jump on in to meet the Victory Golden Ale. All right, we're coming up on summer, everybody, so it's time for the Victory Summer Love Golden Ale in our brew segment. My favorite time of year to drink a beer. It feels light, it feels fresh. You just want to be outside around the barbecue or even the fire pit at night when it might drop into the 60s or so, depending on where you live. So we are going back to our favorite brewery, well, one of our favorite breweries, called Victory Brewing Company, which is, again, Pennsylvania-based. And you can click somewhere in here on the link to the podcast where we talked about Victory Brewing Company. Great company, founded by two guys who got together for the first time when they were in 5th grade on the school bus, stayed there and created this great brewing company in our area, Pennsylvania. So I'm going to try the Summer Love Golden Ale, which, let me read you some notes on this. It's a 5.2% ABU, so a little light for me, I'm just saying. And it's a Pilsner. It's a Carapils malt, which I've never heard about. And the hops in it, also never heard of these, are Tet Nang and Simcoe. And they say that it's refreshing and aromatic, earthy, with a citrusy hop flavors of lemon and pine. So by that description, I will love it because I like refreshing, I like aromatic, and I really like earthy and a little bit of citrus, not overpowering citrus. So let's see what we got here. So I guess my first question is it golden? Let's see. Oh, that's pretty golden. One day I'll talk to you about Golden Monkey and what that story in my family. Oh yeah, that's crispy clear. I can actually make out Francis's tattoo through this one. That's how clear that is. Okay, so that's a beautiful clear Pilsner. Looks summery, feels summery. You like that in the summer. And it smells not like beer. I can't quite characterize that for you. It really doesn't have an aroma, interestingly, and they say it's aromatic. I don't really know quite. Oh, smush it. Oh, Francis is giving me, I know you do that with wine. Do you do that with beer as well?
Just to get the on the head there.
Yeah, it's an interesting, it smells flat. I don't know how to describe it except to say it smells flat. All right, let's see what we got here. That's a nice crisp Pilsner. It's a nice, crisp, hate to say it, guys, run-of-the-mill Pilsner. It's good. I'm not a Pilsner gal, to be fair. It's good. Yeah, so this would fall on my PBKPI scale of 1 to 5. Remember, we've changed our ranking system. This would be a 2 for me. I'm not going to seek it out. I'm not going to order it from a menu, but if it's one of the only ones that are there, I'll order it up. It's a good taste, and this probably is a fantastic Pilsner relative to Pilsners because everything Victory does is really exquisite. Just not a Pilsner gal. So I think this one for me, we're going with the 2. And now, because my puppy's here and he's right here, like literally for the filming, I didn't invite him up. We're going to go talk about something very cool called Bark Air. Cheers. This may be my very favorite podcast segment ever. We're going to talk about Bark Air, which quite frankly, when I read about it, Francis told me about it, I'm like, is this real? And I think we're going to show you some clips here in this podcast so you can see it's real. And we went ahead and validated it with a few other news outlets. So I know what I'm about to tell you is real. And this is a couple of folks who launched a company called Bark Air. And I'm going to read it to you because their marketing is so good that there's a couple lessons in this. One is this thing exists and I find it fascinating. But the second is their marketing, which is really, really good. And they've got videos infused here as well. We'll drop the website in the podcast notes because you got to check this out if you got a sense of humor. So we are launching Bark Air because despite incredible demand from dog people, there's simply no good or convenient solution to traveling long distances with your dog. I can vouch for that. We recognize and believe that life is better for you and your dog when you are together. Of course it is. We've spent years talking to airlines how to make flying with your dog more accessible, and because of their resistance, we decided to build the solution ourselves. The initial launch of Bark Air is only the beginning. It's our first step in achieving our vision for dog-first travel. Whoops, Siri's going off here. For dog-first travel. We partner with a jet charter company to meticulously build out an in-flight experience from the ground up that's focused solely on the comfort and happiness of the dog first, human second. We chose our flight routes based on where we see the most demand today, as well as how we can connect parts of the country and the world where driving with your dog simply isn't a viable option. Listen to dog people, and giving them more ways to spoil their dogs is what drives every business decision we make as we further our mission to make all dogs happy. You know that's important to me. It'll be no different for the next phase of Bark Air. Our hero video represents our vision for the future, what flying with your dog should be like. We plan to add more routes, more infrastructure, more equipment, more staff, more over-the-top dog-first amenities, unlike anything in the market. And over time, this will allow us to bring the ticket prices down and open routes up to new markets. Right now, it's pretty darn expensive. But if you look at the video on their website, you'll see that they basically have a doggy playground inside a plane. And it's really pretty amazing. But the best part is if you go to the story of Bark Air on Bark Air, I'm not going to show this on here because it was pretty hard to watch, but they have a video of putting their CEO in a crate and flying him 1,200 miles to make the point very explicitly that no dog should fly in a crate. Said to illustrate this, we made our CEO fly in one for our inaugural flight instead. So the dogs were upstairs in first class, and the CEO was in the hold in a crate. And I watched the video. It was really pretty interesting. So anyway, Bark Air is a thing, and I happen to think it's a brilliant business model. In fact, I want to figure out how I can work with them. That's all I have to say. But speaking of working on airplanes, we are all entrepreneurs, and we all know that you often have to fix a plane while you're flying it. Stay tuned. We're going to jump into that right now with some great tips. All right, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. We all know that 90% of our lives is spent fixing the plane while we're flying it, if we think of the business as our plane. This is something I write about in my newest book, From Founder to Exit, because it's one of those things that becomes very important when businesses are facing a cash crisis, when they're facing wanting to scale quickly, or a big new huge customer has come along and they need to know how to swallow that beast, or they're planning for an exit. Like, there are long-term goals that are going to change fundamentally how we do what we do in our businesses, but we're never able to stop everything and just do that long-term thing, right? We have to keep the business running. We have to keep the money coming in. We have to keep employees paid. We have to keep the dogs fed. We have to do all of those things while we're heading for those longer-term goals. And I recently had a very relevant experience with a client here because they have some really important strategic questions they need to address. And so I'm just going to give this to you as an example so that it kind of makes sense, because this happens in our financial areas a lot. And what they needed to do was address the fact that in this economy, there's pressure on pricing from their customers. So their customers are like, hey, you know, I know we need to have this thing that you offer us. In this case, it's IT security and support, but we really can't afford this much anymore. We need to negotiate a new price with you. And it's the economy, it's the interest rates, it's all of the things happening. It's people thinking we might be in a recession, you name it. People are trying to cut back costs, and in some cases, they're doing it in the areas that some of my clients sell to them in. So they have that pressure. At the same time, as always happens, all of their providers are increasing their costs. So they're in that classic squeeze. They're right here poised for growth, but they're in that classic squeeze where price is coming down and costs are moving up, right? And they want to grow, but they want to grow profitably. So we know that there's a long-term milestone there. And the long-term milestone, when they called me, is that they want to be able to interpret their financial information in real time to make very good decisions around the things that drive that cash flow for them. So around pricing, around negotiating contracts for the services and costs that they get, around whether their infrastructure or their fixed costs are too much or too little, what we might need to do in the future in order to grow the company incrementally, but not so slow that it doesn't really build the value from them that they're after. So there's some very deep strategic questions that need to be answered. And in order to do that, we need to get their financial information to a certain place, right? So that's the big project. Get the financial information to be really good, accessible, and useful in very important strategic decision making. But there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and a lot of things in the way of getting to that answer. And we can't just put aside all the day-to-day work and focus on that. So how do you do this? How do you keep flying the plane and fixing all the things that need to be fixed day in and day out? We do this a lot with our clients. So we've really got a process that's very tactical, but works for this. And it's a pseudo project management type thing. I've done kind of all the official project management with Microsoft Project and all of that, where it's a lot of detail and you actually spend more money managing the project than you do actually executing the project. So this isn't anything that deep, but I do suggest that when you start, you throw down just a list of the major milestones that you have between you and whatever that end goal is. So for example, in this particular client's case, we had a milestone of convert them from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. Now that's a very big step, right? Because that includes all of their integrations, their payroll, all the other things that have to be moved. But kind of that's a milestone. We know that by a certain date, we want to have that done. Because once that data is in QuickBooks Online, there's a lot more that can be done with it. There are other reasons that we're moving them, but you get the point. Then we know the second piece or big milestone piece is we really need to generate a forecast. And then we know the third milestone is we need to have a repetitive process for the management team to kind of continue to manage the business against this forecast and budget. So 3 major milestones, which require a lot of detailed change. Now, in the meantime, say that one of those things we have to change is we need to move payroll from one system to another system. Well, we can't just stop paying employees while we do that, right? So what I now do is make a list of the things that are in conflicts, kind of the wrong word, but you sort of get what I mean. A list of the day-to-day tasks that we do today in a particular way that are different and less efficient than when we're going to do them, how we're going to do them once we have transitioned over to the new methodology and things that we're going to be doing. And you can't always say, oh, well, just stop doing that thing and we'll pick it up once our project's finished. So what I do is make a list of those things. What are the things? What are the old systems that we're using that we're not going to use anymore? What are the processes that we're using where we just keep inputting stuff over and over again, or spending time trying to reconcile one system to another system? Like, what are all those crazy tasks that we're doing today that have to keep happening? And then we can still make changes to those issues, but here's the point. Because you've mapped out the overall project plan for the big deliverables, any changes you make in those short-term items should be screened through the filter of those big deliverables. So let me give you an example. Say that and I'll use payroll because we've talked about it here. We're moving to QuickBooks Online from QuickBooks Desktop, and we're changing payroll systems from, I don't know, Anonymous to Gusto. And what we're not going to do is say, oh, we know we need to be on a different payroll system than we're currently on in order to migrate to our long-term plan. So let's really quickly just go get this payroll system and pay people. Because it's not in line with the fact that we know when we get to the project, when we get to the long-term solution, we're going to have Gusto, which will nicely integrate with our new QuickBooks Online. So that's how I want you to think about it. Map your long-term goals, keep it at a high level, but know what it means. And then, and this is the piece most people miss that we've now started doing with every single client, and it's made all the difference in the world. Here are the 10 or 12 little things that are real nagging pain points for us that we want to make adjustments to and tweaks to. But any of that we do has to be in line and informed by our overall high-level project plan. So I hope that helps. What we're going to do here in the notes is give you a link to a template for that long-term project plan so that you can see it can be done very easily in Excel. You don't have to buy Microsoft Project or go get a project management certification or anything crazy like that. This is a very practical tool with all of the bureaucracy taken out of it so that you can just quickly pop in there, use it, and put down the 5 or 6 things that are major timeline milestones for you. So I hope that helps you. I hope this has been a really eventful podcast for you and that you've taken a lot away, including you can now fly your animals first class. You have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching the Cash Flow Podcast with us. We want to bring more and more of this to you, so please like, share, subscribe, comment, so that we can keep bringing more of this content to you.